Welcome back to the Witch's Way podcast. I'm Kat.
And I'm Jamie. And tonight we are diving into the journey of self-acceptance and tuning into your authentic self. I must say, this is like the third podcast that we've done now that's sort of on this like deeper shadow work. I must be really feeling this right now.
Well,
be like, hey,
we're still officially in the winter.
We're still in winter. We're about to come out of it in a couple weeks.
Yeah, a couple more weeks before we spring.
Oh, yay. Yeah. So I just wanted, I titled this podcast, I felt like it was really weird, but I did not have a better way to describe this. So we titled it Breaking Free from the Darkness. What the hell is that?
What is the darkness?
What the hell is that, right? So I just want to jump right into understanding what the darkness is. Like, what do we mean when we say the darkness? So the darkness represents a state of disconnection from yourself, right? So this kind of plays into shadow work as well, because our shadow is, in the darkness, and that's how we become our higher selves, is we have to illuminate that. But the darkness is usually rooted in fear. It can be shame, guilt, societal conditioning. The darkness is because we don't know how to be our authentic self. Like, we don't see the light of that, or we're afraid we won't be accepted for it. It manifests as feeling trapped in roles or identities that don't align with your true self. I remember this from our last podcast that I said something like this. That was like, when are you your authentic self? Like, when does that happen? When are you able to be? Is it 2 hours at night? Is it in the car when you're driving? Are you ever able to be? Do you ever feel like you're your authentic self? Usually it's when people aren't around that you can just be you. You get those moments. But when we are trapped in roles or identities that don't align with our true self and who we want to be, that's the darkness that we're speaking of. If you're avoiding self-reflection because it feels like it's too overwhelming, you're in the darkness. If you're experiencing chronic, bad dissatisfaction, anxiety, and low energy, that usually means that you're stuck somewhere in that darkness of you haven't uncovered anything yet. So I use darkness not as a evil force or something like that, or you're being taken over by something, but truly it's about illumination and becoming enlightened. And when you're avoiding that enlightenment journey, you're in the darkness.
Yeah.
That's what that means.
Yeah. The opposite of the darkness is shining a light on all the things that you haven't really wanted to deal with in your whole life, but that need to, but you keep pushing them down. Yeah. Because you're like, it feels like it can be overwhelming. Some of the things that we have to come to terms with, uncover, learn to see in a different light. All of those things. If you're avoiding them, I think you have some darkness to you that you're
think is hidden in the darkness.
You think is so bad that you can't forgive yourself, or you can't move on from it.
Yeah.
So what are the origins of darkness? Of course, external influences, like the pressure that society puts on us to conform to certain standards, like beauty standards, success standards, behavior or other behaviors, even like what the expectations are for being a mom, what the expectations are for being a wife, what the expectations are for being a best friend. Or
I see this in generational terms too, because I'm around a lot of really, older people in their 80s and 90s versus when I have the kids with me who are 16 and 19 years old. Holy crap, do I feel like, oh my gosh, they're not going to understand this. So that the ways to act when you're around those people, the older people is, and I tell the boys that, hey, now we're at a place where this is their home. We want to act really appropriate. Don't be using your slang. Don't be walking like you're a thug or whatever. Not that they do that really, but that's just being appropriate. So I guess I was thinking that with, your behaviors in public, societal pressures and behaviors, is it a good thing? Is it appropriate? We all have to make that call for ourselves. Would it bother everybody or would it not? I don't know. Just this is how we uncover these things.
Of course, another external influence is our family dynamic that teaches us, or that teaches a suppression of emotions or individuality. I feel this on I feel this so deeply because when I didn't feel like I had a voice when I was up to like age 11. Like I was, because the reason I didn't feel like I had a voice was because I was afraid. I was afraid of, my mother was very overreactive. You know, like the littlest thing could set her off, and when you set her off, it was not going to be a good day.
Yeah.
And so I learned to like just be silent and to hold everything in. So I really connect with that statement about family dynamics that teach suppression of emotions or that don't allow you to be an individual. So internal struggles that we can have also is, gosh, here we go back to childhood again.
Yeah.
The beliefs that we came out of our childhood were like, I'm unworthy, I'm not lovable. My own personal experience of being abandoned by both of my parents was no self-worth, not having self-worth, and feeling like nobody could love me. If your parents don't love you, you know, how can anybody else love you? And then me trying to prove that someone could love me by some of my behaviors that were damaging to me then. So I perpetuated that, you know, it just went on. So internal struggles.
Yeah. I mean, because you're too young at that point to try to uncover things. You would have needed a mentor, you know, but now that you're older, you're able to go through that work.
When I look back on, you know, reflection, I mean, looking back is always interesting.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, wow, so that makes sense why I did that, because look what I'd been living up to that point. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's why it's important to face it. You know, avoiding the darkness, it keeps us stuck. Repeating patterns, it sabotages our growth if we don't face it. Facing it opens up the door for healing also, and empowerment, and then a deeper self-awareness. I think one of the things that I love about myself the most is how unshakable I am in knowing myself and what other people can try to tell me about me, but I know is not true. That I think that when I was in high school, and I look back to my childhood, like being bullied a lot, I did allow those bullies to kind of determine my self-worth or make me feel like I was less than and I was never going to be accepted, or I wasn't up to standards of whatever the fuck, right? Like, I was not a girly girl for a long time. Didn't want to fucking brush my hair and wear cute clothes and all of that. I wanted to wear big ass t-shirts and run around with the boys and get dirty and climb trees. And I was more that energetic person. She didn't become a girly
girl until she was like 14.
And that was hard pressed by other people too.
Then it was a light switch.
Well, you know what? That was rough. You shouldn't have made me get my first bra. I probably would have just stayed a tomboy and never acknowledged it.
I'm pretty sure you needed a bra at that point.
I know I needed one. I just didn't want one. Yeah. So I know that, I mean, facing it and uncovering your shit, it's really hard to do when we're young. You know, I've been in witchcraft for a long time, since I was 17. I'm 44 now. I can't say almost anymore. I'm 44 now. And it still takes a lot of effort to look back and uncover some of my shit. You know, I've been married now for 6 years, but even in finding that relationship and choosing a different partner than I chose in the past and having this very healthy experience, I didn't know until I chose this healthy relationship that was really fucking scary, because I always chose people who were, this sounds terrible, and I didn't know this consciously. I chose people that were already less than me so I could have the upper hand, because what I need to feel safe is control. That's what I needed in the past. So I had to do that work of like looking back at my relationships and the men that I chose to be with, and knowing that I chose people that I could control. And I'm not controlling like in a weird, like fucking like psycho controlling. That's not it. It's controlling like, I make more money than you, so I get to decide where we live. I make more money than you, so I can decide where things get spent.
You needed some power.
I had to have that power in order to feel like I was safe and they couldn't screw me over. It was like I always had the upper hand a little bit.
I always did that too.
I know.
But I always picked so my experience is always picking the wrong type of men. The ones that needed a mother or just needed to be taken care of in some kind of way. Like I thought what I felt at the time was that I was helping them. And And really what I think I was doing is I was trying to validate my own self-worth by fixing someone else and focusing on their problems, or else proving to myself that somebody could love me, that I was worthy of love. But all my relationships, I haven't had one that was truly healthy. Yet. Yeah, yes. My heart is open to meeting somebody, but I still do worry that those old habits will...
And they will pop up, because habits are very hard to get rid of, and you haven't had experience.
I don't have any experience with
to exercise the new habits that you know you can have, but you haven't had a time yet. You
pick the same type of guys, and then you're like, will I do it again? That's the big question. Like, will I do it again? Will I be able to see it? You know? So that's my experience with ignoring the darkness, is picking the same type of guy, and then also kind of like when they weren't fixable, then blaming it on them, because like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you be fixed? Why can't you change? You know, when really the reality is we don't change other people.
No, that's not our job.
We might think we're changing them. We may have some control over them for a certain amount of time. Like, if you're the one in control of the money, then you're controlling where we live, and you're controlling what we do with our money and stuff like that. But that control that you had there is only for a minute, because they're still doing whatever the fuck they want to do.
And it's demeaning to somebody else to try to control their whole narrative. Like, why do you even...
It's really insulting when you think about it.
It's like, why would I even want to be with somebody that wouldn't have more free will? And I think that, you know, for myself, it was, I thought I could get them up to... Again, I thought I could help them change and grow and be like, oh, don't worry, I can teach you.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you don't know how to adult yet and you're 35? I'm sure I could teach you that. No. I was with my husband by that time. But, you know, in my 20s, I always felt so much older. So when people didn't have their shit together and we're all in our 20s, I'm like, that's okay. You know, some people just have a slower start. Don't worry. You're going to be fine. But I was dating guys older than me. So that's, you know, like, if I'm in my 20s and he's in his 30s, I'm like, you don't have your shit together yet? You're living in your sister's basement? What do you mean? I don't understand.
Not the sister's basement.
The fucking
That's
sister's
exactly
basement.
where my ex was when I met him. Like,
oh my God, we both have an ex that lived in their sister's basement.
And I took him home with me and kept him for 15 years like a pet.
Fucking hell. She's like, oh, are you done with this? I'll take this off your hands. Thanks. I have a basement too that he can live in.
I really did. This is the darkness.
I love it.
And now that we've identified the darkness, let's uncover the lies that keep us there. So, you know, how can we identify lies? Common things include, like, I can't change this because it's just who I am. Or, I need to sacrifice my happiness for others. And you might not say those exact words, because I never said those exact words to myself, but that was the action. Because I gave up so much of my life trying to, you know, fix other people. Another one, success is only for people who are smarter, braver, prettier, luckier than me. Yeah. These are things that we tell ourselves that keep us stuck in that dark place, that keep us not addressing the darkness and coming to terms with the darkness, exploring the darkness, and realizing that the darkness isn't really that scary. We just have to like shine a light on it and be like, oh, look at you little fucker down there.
Oh, there you've been sitting collecting all this shit.
Look at you down there in the dark. What are you doing?
So I can say with myself on this, and this is probably going to be, you know, weaved in and out of here, but the journey that I'm on right now, doing this with the podcast, with the school, with the YouTube channel, and everything that we started 5 years ago now, which is crazy to say. I mean, that was me. I used to lie to myself. Those are lies I used to tell myself, like, you can't do that. Like, nobody just does that. And like, no, in order to start a business doing that, or and able to start something that helps people, is like, I need to be more. I need to have a certification. I need to be, air quotes, qualified. I need, you know, all the things of like all the ways that I wasn't worthy of this journey right here to do this thing. And obviously I have proved myself wrong time and time again. But leaving my job, you know, I'm lucky enough to have a husband who will provide for me. And leaving my job was like the final thing to say.
Did you leave or did you get fired?
That hurts, Mom. Just so you know, that fucking hurts.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I left. I bowed out. I saw the company heading in another direction, and I just...
I was thinking that you got... For some reason, I thought the office shut down. Was it COVID?
So that was 2020, COVID. But I already told David...
Oh, that you were leaving.
I was leaving after the book launch. So in case you guys don't know, during my psych degree at college, I got hired by somebody who had already written like a really awesome book, and he was writing another one and needed some psychology people to come in and write certain chapters of the book and help him do research and all this stuff. And I worked for the company for 4 years. I love them. They're a great family. He was Navy like me. Like, we had a lot of similarities.
But she also did, as part of your evolution in that, is you went out and started teaching. And
I was teaching and speaking in front of people,
Yeah, she was teaching people. So it was like all wrapped up. But the reason why I asked if you were fired is because I remember... I remember how much you struggled with not having a job.
Yes, I know, right?
Yeah.
So
it was really like...
I thought I would get another job. Like, I thought I would just move into another job that was better suited for me. But then when COVID really happened, because our book, you wouldn't believe it, our book fucking launched like February 8th, I think, which is Shy's death date. So February 8th, the book launched. It made Wall Street bestseller, whatever, like that next week. And I stayed on. I was like, I'm going to stay, but just until like this other stuff is done and they plan on hiring somebody. Fucking COVID shut down the world March 14th, just a month later. So there wasn't time to hire somebody else and do all the things that we would have done as a normal me leaving. And then I kind of stuck around for a bit and I was like, okay, well, we're really not working, and what are we doing? But then I gave my heart, like, no, I don't want to be tied to this anymore. I want to let this part of my life go. And I'm like, I finished the project. Everything's good. I'm not going to stay on and teach with him anymore because people he brought on, we didn't see eye to eye. And I felt like they were hypocrites. So I said in June, I'm leaving.
You were teaching one thing, but living a different way.
I was teaching and living it, but they were teaching.
That's what I mean. Them. I was talking about them.
The way that she told those people that if they didn't do it her way, that they wouldn't get qualified. I was like, we actually teach that that's wrong. Like, that's a part of our book that says don't be a leader like that. So anyways, that was me leaving and starting this journey. I had to go through a lot of those uncover the darkness moments for myself about self-worth and what, getting out in front of other people, putting myself out on YouTube, us doing the podcast didn't seem that bad because we've already been talking to you guys for years. And, and we've been saying for how long? For a podcast, like 2 years probably.
Yeah, 2 years for the podcast, and then we actually didn't think we would get it launched until I thought it was going to be
this year, 2025, 2026.
26, I think, or at least 25. Anyway, we just were like, hey, we're ready. Let's go.
We're just going.
So now that we've done that a few times, we don't have the fear that we did because we've talked to you guys for so long in different ways, through our meetup group, through our YouTube channel, through lives. Yeah. And you love us, and we love you. So.
I know. I had less fear. Like, I built confidence in myself the more that I put myself out there. That, we have little snarky attacks here and there, but really, it doesn't really happen, and I don't see them, so I'm not really worried about it. And I'm not worried about being liked. I'm worried about giving people something that's helpful in their lives. So it really switches from like a me perspective of, oh my God, what's everybody going to think about me? To what can I offer them? What services can I provide?
What's everybody going to think about me is the fear of rejection.
Absolutely.
What if people don't accept or like the real you? Also, fear of failure. What if I try and I come up short? Or I just fall flat on my face? I mean, we just talked through this whole cycle. These are all the things we were thinking about before you started this, before we started New Witch Academy. No, what did we start first? The meetup. Also, fear of the old unknown. Like, what if I change and lose everything? Oh, man.
I mean, quitting a job is a big thing to go into something that is not like, you're not instantly making money. You're doing this as an act of service. This is not like I'm doing this to become a millionaire. That's not it. It's just a totally different change of direction. And I think that the lies I told myself was what kept the fear alive, and the self-deception of like, I can't do this. Like, other people can do this, but I can't do this.
Yeah.
And we say that to ourselves about a lot of things, or we believe it when we're young that we're not capable, that if I only had more resources, more money, more friends, more this, more time, you're gonna make those excuses. And
I went to
self-deception.
I didn't start college until I was like 30. And I started at the community college in Kansas City, Kansas. And I went to school for about a year and a half, and I thought I wanted to be a paralegal. And then we got into the research part. And the only reason I was going to be a paralegal is because I thought I wanted to be a legal secretary, because that just seemed like such a prestigious job. I was already a secretary. I had those skills. But anyway, so I start school, and then they get into the research part of it. And of course, this is early 90s, so there's no internet, there's no computers, you're in the stacks, you're going through cards. I'm like, this is the worst thing ever. I hate this so much. And I dropped out of school, not because of that, but I probably would have changed directions anyway, because I realized, like, this research stuff, I don't like this. But anyway, when I dropped out of school and quit going to college, was because I had 3 small children and an asshole of a husband. And so, getting time for myself to like go to school after work, and then having him with the kids was just, it just wasn't really working out, because he was a jerk, and I was worried about my kids. So I didn't go back to school until so I was like 32 maybe, for more than 20 years. But I finally was just like, I'm going to go finish what I started when I think I was 55 when I enrolled in college, and decided to finish it. And I did in about 2.5 years maybe, and graduated and got to wear the cap and gown and all that stuff. But, getting to that point where I was even willing to put myself out there and go to school, because I think I've thought at times in my life that I'm not that smart, that I'm just not like, I really suck at math. I'm good at some things, but some things I'm just not good at, and math is one of them. So I let the fact that I'm not good at math influence how I feel about everything else that I am good at.
Right.
Like if I'm not good at that, that's such a basic skill.
Yeah.
But
that was, confronting the lie that you tell yourself. You had to do that in order to go back to college and be like, I might not be that good at math, but I bet I could pass it. I bet I could do something. So you have to give yourself that. And I did, even though I cried most of the way through algebra. I hated algebra. And I did cry when I was so frustrated with it. Oh. I had to do some math. It wasn't so bad. But I cried during the research part of my degree, because it's so intense for writing psychology papers. I bet. All the referencing, all the thing. I just remember staying up so many nights, just crying, eating popcorn and drinking coffee. That was my solace, was my popcorn and my coffee. I don't know. That's how I survived the last year of college. So how do we confront, these lies? What do we do? What's some things that we can do? Yeah, we have practical tools to challenge the lies that we tell ourselves. Okay? And I know that at first you really got to be honest with yourself about the lies, and I don't have a way for us to uncover that. You just... The reflection part. I think we kind of know, because there's this little niggle. We do know. There's a niggle. Yeah. There's this little thing that happens. We know. Something happens in your body or your mind that's like, oh, what I just told myself I know is bullshit. And you may not say those words, but something happens, I bet. I know it does for me. Yeah, I think we become dependent on the lie, and we want everybody to believe it also. That way we can stay in it and we don't have to deal with the real thing. That's what the darkness is, let's see. I think I've said things like, so that I could just be myself, and I don't have to worry about what other people think or feel. I let people know, I'm like, I cuss a lot. That's just what I do. And I used to be unapologetic about it. And it didn't matter what situation I was in, at work, wherever. And I was like, I fucking cuss. I was in the military. What do you expect from me? This is who I am. Now, I could change my behavior at any time, couldn't I? But I wanted them to believe it too, so they just knew to expect it. It was like, oh, that's Jamie, she has the worst mouth ever. So I was okay with that. But that was not true. Like, I could control cussing or not cussing, right? But because I wanted other people to be in on my lie to myself, and so I didn't have to change my behavior and work hard and act proper or whatever, I'd be like, no, I fucking cuss and I fucking drink and I do what I want, you know? So I had this like attitude when I contracted for the military, and that was who I was. Yes. Did you ever watch Sons of Anarchy, right?
Yes.
Okay. The guys used to call me Gemma instead of Jamie.
Really?
Gemma. Yeah, I was like, I am not that ruthless. She is crazy ruthless. But just her, like, I ain't changing for anybody. I am who I am to my core. Like, it's going my way or the highway kind of thing. I had
Was this when you were in the military?
No, I was contracting for the military. So I was around a bunch of military people.
Yeah.
And see, this is where they didn't have control over me anymore, so I could do what I wanted.
Well, also, I mean, you had to project a certain persona in that situation.
Yeah.
With all of these people.
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe that's what you were doing, but whatever. I think the point is, like, I just cuss. That's just what I do.
Yeah.
That's kind of like,
who I am.
This is just who I am.
This is just who I am.
When you know damn well if you were going to go to the White House dinner that you wouldn't have a foul mouth because it wouldn't be appropriate in that setting. So you do know that you can control it.
Yes.
You just choose not to.
Yeah. So me and my husband also have this thing where, I think I've told you, we've been at restaurants and we're ordering something or we're asking questions and the waiter says something and it's a that's what she said kind of statement. And he and I are such little kids that it's so hard for us not to, like, immediately say it. Because when we're around each other, we say it all the time. Like, if one of us, we walk into that shit all the time. But
that's what he said?
That's what she said.
That's what she said. Like, that's really big.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And Tony will pipe up, that's what she said.
Yeah. I mean, it's all the time. And I love it.
He does it all the time. He just did it this week when we went out.
Yeah,
when we just went to dinner a couple nights ago.
So we refrain because I told him, I was like, we don't need to do this when we're in restaurants. And, you know, I don't want to make the waiters feel uncomfortable. Like, we're going to laugh about it later. So what we do instead is if they say something, we both instantly just look at each other. And it's like these smirks come over our face. Like, we have the inside joke. And both of us are like, that was really difficult not to laugh at. You know, like, we talk about how we controlled ourselves and we high five about it. It's like we're little kids. But that's the joy of us being together. And then I also am like, I'm aware of how other people feel. So going back to the cussing thing, I should be aware of how, you know, saying fuck 30 times in a 10-word conversation is like, it could be offensive. I don't know. It could be. Uh-oh. Oh, Tanky here's somebody.
Hey.
Hey, puppy. It's
quiet,
okay,
buddy. All right, so let's go back. We got a little bit sidetracked because we were going to talk about practical tools,
yes,
for challenging the lies that we tell ourselves that keep us in the darkness.
Yes. And of course, that first thing is the shadow work, the reflective work. It is literally pondering, why did I do that? Why do I do this? How come I always think that? Why do I say this about myself? Why does everybody else think this about me? Maybe there's something I'm not admitting to myself, you know? If everybody's saying that you have resting bitch face, maybe you should look into that more and be like, do I though? Like, what? Why would I have that? Maybe. So it starts with the reflective work. And then you can write down those things that you think, but you can also look at, like, what fears do you have? What are your fears around? You know, is it, I can't leave who I'm with because nobody else will ever want me kind of fear? I mean, is it fear that you're going to work until the day you die because you're not the kind of person who can save money? These are, again, things that we're telling ourselves are true that can be changed because we can always change ourselves. And when you write down, like, your fears, the lies, the things that you're pondering about yourself, then ask if it's really true. Like, is that really true about me? Do I really have this thing? Is that really a fear? What is it that I actually fear?
Well, I remember staying in my second marriage much longer than I should have. I was very unhappy, and but I kept telling myself that I couldn't make it, you know. I wasn't going to be able to make it without two incomes, you know, without my husband's income helping support me and my 3 kids because I didn't get any child support. So I would tell myself that, and I stuck around a lot longer than I should have and went through shit that I shouldn't have had to go through, and my kids went through shit that they shouldn't have had to go through. But one day,
One fucking
day it happened. An incident happened with my youngest daughter and my ex-husband. And at that moment, I just flipped a switch and said, fuck this. I don't care if we have to live under a tree. I'm out. I'm done. This is the end because he's going to break her spirit. That was the thing that I thought to myself that day. And you know what? In a couple of weeks, I moved out, and we didn't have any furniture, and we picked up a couch on the side of the road. And I had to sleep in the living room because, the only place I could afford with me and 3 kids didn't allow me to have a bedroom of my own. The kids needed the bedroom, so I slept on a cot in the living room and started working 2 jobs. And it was like, look at that. I can do it. I can do it myself. I don't have to stay with that asshole.
Yeah.
And keep putting up with his bullshit.
And all of us kids helped out. I mean, we took over household responsibilities.
Well, yeah, you practically raised your sister. Started cooking, if you call what you did cooking. I guess it was cooking. I was just thinking of all the little animals that you made with the food. Yeah. So Jamie's idea
I made food, but I made it creative. I mean, what?
Jamie's idea.
That's just who I am, Mom.
All right. So another thing we can do is affirmations and reframing. So replacing negative self-talk with affirmations like, I'm deserving of love and success, or you can do it, girl.
Yeah. Be like, I can do this.
Like, I can do this. Yeah. Like when I finally got to that breaking point with Chuck, I was like, I didn't really, whatever the obstacles that I was going to face when I made that decision, when I made that choice where I was going to be a single woman making $25,000 a year with 3 kids and to put food on the table for all of us and all of that. I just decided at that point that was the lesser of 2 evils, I guess, or that I would overcome and figure out a way to get through it. I would figure out a way to survive.
I always think about, like, my mom grew up saying to me and my siblings that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Like, that was one of our family mottos that we just had to repeat all the time, because we would get into these uncomfortable situations, sometimes scary, bad, whatever, but uncomfortable, where we all wanted something different and we couldn't change anything right then. And we're like, this isn't going to kill us, so it must be making us stronger. And I took that with me, and still, like, for my whole life, just...
Yeah, my other one was this too shall pass.
This too shall pass.
And I think that's really important to remember, because sometimes when you're in these situations, it can feel like it's never going to change.
It's never going to end.
I'm always going to feel this way, or it's always going to be like this.
Drag on.
And it's not, because... because things are always moving. The world is moving. We're moving. Nothing is stagnant.
Yeah, your present moment changes.
Reframing failure as a step in learning and growth. I mean, you can...
This goes back to when we talked about one of the things I always say, what can I learn from this? Yeah. So if it is a failure, air quotes, failure. All right, I fucked that up. I didn't do it right. Because sometimes fear of failure... Not sometimes, a lot. Fear of failure stops people from doing things, stops you from starting even. Like, you don't even get your foot out there. And I just think, like, I may not do this perfectly, but what will I learn while I do it? Like, I'll learn.
I feel like we have somebody close to us that kind of lives in has sort of a fear-based mentality, where everything that you think about doing immediately starts the questions of but all the buts, all the reasons why, you might have a good idea.
Work.
But why it wouldn't work, or all the obstacles that you're going to face, so you can stop that can be something that if you do that fear, it feeds the fear, and then it paralyzes.
It does. So now I think I have a worse problem of, like, I probably shouldn't start this project because 25 other ones aren't done yet, but I don't ever fear now of, like, oh, I can't do that. I think I can learn to do anything. Like, if I really wanted to, but it goes back to having the passion of wanting that for yourself. That's another thing that could stop you from starting. If you think that you want to do something, but you don't have any passion behind it, don't do that thing. Do the thing that you have passion behind, Like, I think fear stops us, but also lack of passion and deciding like, yep, this is the route I'm taking and I'm going to stick with it, then giving yourself goals. All right, what if I try this for 3 months? What do I learn? What can I get out of that? If I really feel like it's not my path in 3 months, I'll stop. Even with people getting into witchcraft and starting a witchcraft practice, and they want to do their first spell, and they buy the books and they buy all the items, even doing the practice, like actually sitting down, gathering things, creating a ritual for themselves, like all of that feels very daunting, because like, what if I mess up? What if it goes wrong? What if I spill something?
You do
what
have
if I
so
burn
many
this?
questions. I mean, I see this all the time in the Facebook groups that I'm in. Which Facebook groups that I'm in, new witches, especially, like questioning can I do this? Is it okay to do this? Stuff like that. That's all these questions that for some reason, I think especially around witchcraft, because there is no hard and fast. I don't want to say we're making it up as we go, but it's very loose. But it's very there's not a real structure, which is what I love about it. Because you can create your own structure that works for you and your life and your path. But it can feel a little bit overwhelming when you're brand new and you're like, there's just so many things, and I've read so much, and I don't know. Can I do it? I've read 25 books on spells. Is it okay for me to do a spell now?
Am I qualified now? Like, have I put enough time in?
Exactly.
This is where I think the next one is really important, is to seek support. Find the people around you who want the same desires, who want the same change. I think that Toastmasters is a perfect example of that. It's a group that came together to help people learn how to speak in public, because it stopped being taught in schools. It's not a focus anymore. It can help create confidence. It can really help you find your voice and what you're passionate about. It is an extracurricular activity, so it's a group or a club that you join, really. But think about how many groups and clubs that are out there. I mean, Meetup was that. Meetup has like all people doing all things, and you find the people that can support you, or that you can at least talk to about your journey and what you're doing. And it feels so much better to not do it alone. I think that the one thing that our human experience really elicits out of us is connecting with the things that we feel connected to, right? So things that you're passionate about, but also things that you just really like music and art. And if you like actors and actresses, or my mom loves the royal family kind of history and all the things that go into that. So if she got to do something like, win a trip to meet the royal family or have lunch with them, like that would excite her so much. For me, I'd be like, I'll pass. I don't know.
That's only because I know that I actually have royal blood.
I know you do.
Like my ancestress was some lover of a king of somewhere.
Oh boy.
And in England, I'm sure. And
it could be past life stuff too, where you're still feeling that. I mean, but I love all of it. So I think that when you seek support from groups that are there because they want to help people like us. That was what we started. I wanted to help new witches who had questions. Be like, fuck it, I'll just open up a Q&A. That's literally what we called the New Witches Q&A. New Witches Q&A. I just thought I'd just get on there and answer questions.
That was our group.
It turned into so much more, but
it did turn into so much more.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about embracing your authentic self. So we talked about authentic selves in our last podcast. Did we not?
Before this one, it was
because
very much about
let's define, in case you missed the last podcast, which is out there for you if you want to go listen to it, because we talk about authentic self. But authentic self is, how would you say? What would you say?
I think your authentic self is when you're aligned with a purpose that you know is for you in this lifetime.
Living in alignment with your values, your passions, your truth, your truth, regardless of external expectations.
Yeah.
Oh, man, do we ever have those that we're...
It's so tough to break away from, especially if you have a really strong family. Like, I left home when I was 18, and I really didn't look back for 6 years. And so my family wasn't like, what are you doing? And how did you, all fucking
She
hovering.
didn't just leave her family. She left the country. She got as far away as she could get.
I wanted to travel.
Which was good. I was so glad. I was so happy for you.
I think breaking
to have
away.
That experience.
Thank you. It was lovely for the most of it. I think of a friend of mine who came from the Mormon community and how hard that is to break away, and like some of the things that she still deals with while being separated from all of that. And she has family members that are still in it. So it's difficult for her, and she will feel guilt or unsure about how to move forward because everything that she grew up, learning how to be as a person, as a woman, as a whatever, she's
your
having
entire belief system.
Yeah. I mean, you have to break away from that.
Mormons, like, I'm sure it's not a cult, but it feels cultish to me because it just does. But then religion does. So anyway.
Yeah.
So living in alignment with your values, passions, and truth. Mm-hmm. And so the thing about authenticity is it's not about being perfect, but it's about being honest with yourself and others. And to reclaim your authenticity,
to reclaim our authenticity?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm fucking drawing a blank. I don't know. Do you have...
Listen to your intuition.
Oh, well, yes.
Listen to your intuition. Pay attention to what feels right and wrong. So again, remembering that your authentic self is this yourself that's living in your own truth with your passions and that are aligned with your values. That's what your authentic self is. You're all in alignment with your values, your passions, and your truth.
Setting boundaries.
Oh, yes.
Okay, I will preach on boundaries all day, every day, up and down, sideways, backwards.
Because we have to, because we don't learn those things. Or maybe because our boundaries are crossed so often, especially as women, and we have to...
Children, first you're told to sit down and shut up. Okay,
yes.
So your voice is gone. You're under the control of other people. So when is the time that we get to learn to set boundaries for ourselves as kids? Like you're not allowed.
Yeah,
I've been appalled at some of the schools that Cameron have gone to where he's not allowed to use the restroom. Like, there's been times when you're not allowed to do this. You can't go get a drink of water, all kinds of crazy shit. And I was like, what? What do you mean you can't just go get a drink of water? He's like, no, you can only do that during class crossings. So I went up to the school and I'm like, is this serious? Like, if he needs water, you need to pack him a bottle. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. So it was just the things that I felt like in my day, oh my God, I'm so old. I felt like I had more access to, or at least the freedom to do so. Kids are being restricted even more physically in their environments. But then if you think about, because safety too, right? I mean, they're putting in, what do you call it? Metal detectors and stuff for the kids at Venice High now, Cameron's old high school. Yeah. And so you're getting more is confining them being safer, but also you're not allowing them to explore, have fun, be creative. It's like, no, they're really being pushed into just a box. So we don't even get to learn who we are until when?
Yeah.
When
so
is
then
that
you go out into
self-discovery kind?
Yeah. So then you go out into the world as an adult and you haven't had to practice setting boundaries with people. And so that takes time to figure that out. If you ever do, sometimes you're, I don't know. I feel like sometimes you don't figure it out. It takes a lot of people crossing your boundaries before you realize you actually need to set some.
Yeah,
and then,
that's true.
Yeah, in relationships, especially intimate relationships. So,
I think one of the things about veterans for me that I notice is because we got so used to following orders with things, it's very easy to tell us something and we just accept it as it is. You really have to do a shift when you get out to start questioning people again, questioning authority, question shit, question. Because I don't want to just be told one answer. I'm like, if you can't tell me a why and explain the whole process to me, you don't know enough and I need to speak with somebody else. In the military, you can't do that. It's like, you don't ask questions, you just follow directions, right?
Yeah.
So there's these shifts that you go through, depending on where you've lived and what you've done and jobs and whatever. But people get used to being told what to do. And they're like, I don't want to have to think about it. I like that somebody directs my everyday. That's not a witch's life, I'll tell you that. That would be tough. So I think when we are setting boundaries, you learn to say no to things that don't align with your values and goals, but you also understand that by saying no to others, it often means that you're saying yes to yourself, which is what I love, because you want to do that self-care. You want to take care of you. you know, especially as women. If we're fucking meant to take care of so much other stuff, we better take care of ourselves first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So taking aligned action. All right. When you take aligned action, what that means is that you are taking action that aligns with the things that you believe in, that go along with like your mission in life, your soul's purpose, your higher purpose. And that's like, you start small with these things, okay? The aligned actions, just start small. Take one step each day towards your authentic desires, whether that's a new hobby, to have a certain really hard conversation, to change a routine, you know? We used to teach people how to start going to the gym. I know this is so silly, as an exercise for the leadership course that I taught. Mm-hmm. And it was, on day one, you're going to put your running shoes by the door. Okay, that's it. They're just going to be by the door. Day 2, you're going to pick out your clothes and put them with your running shoes by the door. That's it for day 2. On day 3, you're going to get fully dressed in those clothes. That's it for that day. You're just going to get dressed. And then finally, on day 4, you're actually going to go outside in these clothes. Like, you're going to do something in them. So, but each day, so day 1 is the shoes, day 2 is the shoes and the clothes, day 3 is shoes, clothes, put them on. So you're building this habit of like, now you've put the shoes there 3 days in a row. Now you've put the clothes there 2 days in a row, you know, and then you start a week where you're just getting dressed in your gym clothes. So you're not even going to the gym yet. Everybody's like, what? That's crazy. Like, yeah, build the habit of setting these things up. So it's easier, right? Lessen the barrier for entry. So, and you want to celebrate any progress that you make, no matter how small it seems. Just celebrate. Just be like, damn, I did that today. Look at those shoes by the door. That's awesome. No. That was a tough one for me because I would just put my shit on and go. But
not everybody's like that. No, for some people, it's a real struggle.
And it was to see it from that perspective of like just these small things every day. People could understand this is how change is really. This is how habits are lasting change is built. Yeah.
Habits are built. That's how habits are built.
Yeah. It's like, if you want to eat healthier, we had one for that too that was great. It's like, okay, decide on Monday, one of your meals is going to be just vegetables, like a salad, whatever your healthy meal is. Pick one healthy meal. So Monday, one of your meals is that. All right, the next week, now Monday and Wednesday, you change up 2 meals. A third week, now it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Each have a new, like a healthy meal. And you just start slowly by replacing them. And not all at once or fast, right? Because that's where people don't last, when they try to make too many changes too fast.
Yeah.
It fucks with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the all or nothing mentality that comes along with that too. Like, if I can't do everything, then
I'll do nothing.
Then I'll do nothing. I'm no good.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the benefits of being authentic. Number 1, I think, is greater inner peace. You know, no longer pretending to be somebody that you're not. Because who the fuck wants to do that? Stronger relationships. You know, authenticity attracts people who generally align with your values. Mm-hmm. And I think that that it may take time to, as you get aligned and then getting yourself out there and meeting people, getting involved in groups of people who have similar passions as you. Like if you're a gardener, you know, getting into a gardening group where you can meet other people, because nature, hello. And then also living in a, fulfillment, feeling fulfilled by living in alignment with your purpose and the purpose that brings you joy and meaning.
Yeah. I think I could sleep easier now knowing that I love what I do. I'm happy spending my time doing it all. I could totally obsess over everything that we talk about. Like, it's hard to ever really be mad at this job, lifestyle, whatever I have going on, because I love it so much. It's my passion, so that fulfillment for me, I've never had fulfillment like this before.
Well, you know what? I've never been as content as I am right now. I'm very happy and content in my own little place. And even though I talk about I'm going to open my heart, I've started reading all this stuff about dating and stuff like that. But you know what? I'm not really seeking it, because I'm actually very content with my little world, the way that it is, and my house and all the stuff that I do here. So I'm living my best life, my most authentic life as a witch right here in my little witch house.
I think that's where I'm at with my witchhood, is that I hid it in all my relationships. I didn't hide it. I hid it from the rest of the world, but like the people who were with me knew I was a witch. But now in my marriage, like I'm openly a witch. Like I'm a witch everywhere now, across all lines. And I used to have lots of lines built up around that label and, you know, for safety or judgment or whatever. Now I don't have any lines. Like the last thing for me to do is put a big ass, you know, pentagram on my window on my car or something. That would be it. I don't know. I wouldn't do that, but that's, I'm out there that much, you know, where it's kind of funny because all those years ago I wouldn't have been. I just wouldn't have. I'm like, people don't need to know what I got going on.
Yeah, exactly. That's a protective thing,
that's
right?
What I used to think,
that
yeah.
fear thing.
But now living authentically as myself and being outward with it, I've helped so many more people because they can recognize me. They're like, are you into witchcraft? Like, like, you know, when I'm at checking out at stores or wherever, and I'm just like, yes, I am. Da, da, da. And then we get to talking, and it's like, oh my God. And they've always wanted to meet somebody who could answer questions or whatever, and know resources. And where can you find the real answers? Everybody wants to know, what's the real witchcraft books out there? I'm like, I love this. Yeah. Like, so being able to help them with their own direction, I feel pretty fulfilled with that.
I love that.
Joy
love
and
that
meaning for sure. Lots of joy and meaning. Yeah.
Well, that wraps up this podcast. We'd like to thank you for joining us today. And remember that living authentically is a journey. Each step you take, no matter how small, is a triumph in becoming the person you were always meant to be.
We love you guys.
I love you guys. Bye, witches.
Do the best you can with what you got. That's all you can do. Just remember that. Don't try to go too fast. But we love you. We believe in you. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.